Mike, what's going on, man? We are live. It is the Commanders Broncos live pregame show. Yes, we're early, but you know what? We're punctual people. The Broncos and the Commanders face off this afternoon in Denver. Mike, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great. This football weather, you can like feel it starting right now. Like I am legit lit for this game this afternoon, and I'm ready to talk about it with you. I'm excited, bro.
Yeah, man. So listen, throughout the week, we kind of went back and forth on this game. Are you feeling more confident today than you were earlier in the week about it?
Nah, I'm still feeling about the same. Still feeling about the same.
Yeah, yeah. What about the news about Jerry Judy potentially playing today? Does that bother you a little bit, make you a little more worried?
I mean, of course, you want the players to be healthy, so I'm glad that he's healthy and whatnot. But you also want to face the teams at their best, so you know that leave no doubt if you win. Hey, we're the better team, at least for that day. So Judy doesn't really swing it one way or another. I do say that I am more concerned with the secondary now that Judy's playing, but with Forbes and St. Juice and Fuller and Curl and Forrest, like we can handle them. We can handle them.
Yeah, I thought Fuller looked good last week in
He
spots.
did,
So,
man. He
yeah,
did.
I mean, look, I tell you what, every year we want to count Fuller out, and every year he just keeps coming back and doing it again and again. So, shout out to
Right.
Kendall Fuller, man. The Forbes pick or the rookie Forbes last week had some plays. I think they might put it together today. Russell Wilson last week completed 80% of his balls in that game last week against Las Vegas. Now, we have a better defensive front than Las Vegas does, so I wouldn't expect him to complete that high of passes because we'll have a little bit more pass rush. What about the altitude? You know how much we like to make about the altitude. Are you concerned with the altitude, especially considering it's going to be in the mid 80s today?
Yeah, you would think that playing in Denver gives the opponents a disadvantage, but I think with the advancement of technology, old school remedies, I think it was somebody in the secondary. I can't remember who it was. They said that the nutritionist was giving them beet juice this week
Yeah, yeah.
because it helps blood flow. So I think maybe in the past it was a big advantage, but nowadays it's not as big of an advantage. It's not like you're Ryan Clark, you have sickle cell,
Yeah,
so your entire immune system, um, this it doesn't allow you to be your best to the point where it could be fatal for you to play football. That's an issue. But outside of that, I think it's more mental than it is physical. But I can't I can't confirm that because I never played any
right.
sport in Denver. So, you know,
Listen, if it came
that's
down to me drinking beet juice or me playing foot, I just have an asthma attack. That's what I, that's what I do. I'm
well,
not drinking beet juice. I can't do it. Uh, Listen, so tell me if this is crazy. I think that Chris Rodriguez is going to
mhm,
get more carries this week than he did last week. I think so. I see the running back split like this week. I think Brian Robinson's still going to handle the majority. I'd say
mhm.
about 60%. I think Chris Rodriguez might get up to I'm gonna say 30% of the carries, and then Gibson with 10%. Is that crazy of me to say that, or what?
Nah, I'm surprised Rodriguez didn't rush the ball more last week,
Yeah,
especially when we were killing the clock late in the game. They still didn't bring Rodriguez in. I don't know if they wanted Robinson to, earn the stripes, so to speak. But I can see that. I don't think that's crazy to expect that, especially with Denver's secondary. My goodness, you
right.
got two monsters back there, and Simmons and Surtain the second. So we will have to run the ball more. So if that means Rodriguez gets a couple of more of those tough carries, then so be it. But I'm starting to understand and what you all are saying about the dynamic running back. There are times where there's holes available for the running back, but it does seem like all three of our running backs are plowing through a pile instead of finding an open gap. So I say that you say that Rodriguez is going to get more carries. Do you think that's going to dramatically improve the running game, or are we just going to still see the same old 3 yards in the
Let
cloud
me
of dust?
let me tell you why I think it will. And I'm not saying it's going to be like we put Tyreek Hill at running back on Madden or something, right? And then start going crazy. I'm not saying that. But one thing I noticed about Rodriguez is that he just plows forward, but he tends to plow forward through an open hole. Where I'm sure you went back and watched that Cardinals game, and you saw both Brian Robinson and Gibson running into the back of linemen first before going up the field a little bit, right? So that's the one. I don't know if it's real or not with Robinson. I haven't seen him in the NFL much beyond the 3 carries he got last week, right? But I did notice in preseason he was just getting maybe 8 yards where other guys are getting 3. And that's not to say he's going to do it consistently, but I think there's a bit of a curiosity with the coaching staff there about Rodriguez. He's not going to be what we ultimately believe we need in the backfield, which is explosive plays. I get that, but you got to get more than 3 yards a carry, right? And that's what our running backs have consistently been over the last 2 years. Hopefully, Rodriguez, if he gets any more carries, this is a big if too. This is a huge assumption on our part, but if he does get more carries, hopefully he's more in the 4.5 yard carry, because there's a big difference, right, between like, I don't know, 3rd and 5 versus like 3rd and 7. You know, in the NFL, that's a gigantic difference in terms of how you approach the down. So that's what I think he might bring. In the pass game out of the backfield, we saw Gibson last week. Gibson caught a couple of passes out of the backfield, I think a couple of screens, right, and he turned them into 7-8 yard gains. I still fully believe that we're going to see a little bit more of Curtis Samuel catching the ball out of the backfield. So I'm pretty high on Curtis Samuel this week, believe it or not, against this Denver defense. What do you expect from Terry today?
Absolutely nothing.
From Terry?
I'm being honest with you, bro. I don't like the matchup. I really don't like the matchup. And I'll be honest with you. I did hear this on Take Command from Logan Paulson and Craig Hoffman, but they brought up how Belichick likes to double the star receiver and leave this number 2 kind of one-on-one on the island. And if that's the case, that means that Wilcox from the Broncos and Simmons from the Broncos are going to be doubling Terry most of the game. And that means Surtain is going to be one-on-one with Dawson. And y'all know that's my guy. Like, I really, really like Dawson.
Yeah.
But one-on-one versus Surtain, I wouldn't really trust that matchup in a game where you really need to win. I wouldn't go after Surtain that much. So I kind of agree with you with what you said earlier. I do expect Samuel to kind of get off today.
Yeah. Did you say you said Belichick? Did you mean Vance Joseph?
No, I meant Belichick, but they were saying that Vance Joseph may use that strategy.
I see.
Because
he
comes from the I think they said the Wade Phillips defense. I think he is from the Wade Phillips defensive tree, coaching tree. So yeah, I think that pressure that the Broncos are going to hit us with is just not going to allow Howell to do what he would probably like to do, or Bieniemy to do what he liked to do. So I agree. Like, the running game has to be on point today, because I'm not expecting nothing from the passing game, especially from our top 2 receivers. And I'm just being real.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? Like, if I'm Vance Joseph in Denver, I'm bringing pressure, but I'm also taking away everything deep. And I'm going to see if Hal is patient enough to take the 5 yard gains, the 3 yard gains when they're there, or if I can force him into a mistake trying to force it downfield. That's what I would do. I think you might see some of that too. Kalan Meekins, hopefully I said that right. He said, "You're bugging if you think Terry don't get off on the top corners. I only seen Marcus Lattimore strap Terry up." What do you got to say to that, Mike?
It's not necessarily a McLaurin thing. It's more of a defensive strategy thing. Like, I'm not saying that he's going to have 0 catches for 0 yards or anything like that. I'm just saying, strategically, if I'm the Broncos and I know about McLaurin, and also you got to remember, he's still dealing with that toe injury too. Like, there is merit for me to be concerned about McLaurin production. Like, if you have him in fantasy, I probably wouldn't start him this week. And I hope I look like an idiot after the game. I hope he goes for 17 and 200. And I'm like, they're like, man, Mike is dumb as hell for saying all this. But I'm just saying, looking at the scheme that the Broncos run, knowing that McLaurin's injured, knowing that this is Howell's first start on the road, knowing that the offensive line isn't the best, knowing that the Broncos like to pressure a lot, It's just not good for the passing game. But I am very optimistic about the running game.
Yeah, man. I think there are some opportunities there. I think, Diami Brown got 0 looks last week, I think it was in the game, right? Dotson is going to be Dotson. And I think you're going to see some production out of Dotson because that's kind of how he rolls. If you were Denver's defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, which of the 3 receivers would you try to take away? Would it be Terry?
Yeah, it'll definitely be Terry because he is the most dangerous. Of course, Dotson being the second most dangerous. And yeah, I kind of do think this is a very good opportunity for not Samuel and Brown to get off today. But it's just the other factors that concern me. For
Yeah.
example, Sam Howell. I don't know if you all saw it last week. He held the ball for a long time. Like on average, it was definitely the longest time out of all the starting quarterbacks. And you couple that with last week with Garoppolo, he was getting the ball out quick versus that Denver offense. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up. We're going to see this week how well Howell learns from his mistakes. Because if he goes into the game and he's getting the ball out quicker, he's stepping into the pocket, he's reading the field better, then we know that we might have something good on our hands. But if he goes into Denver in a couple of hours doing the same thing, holding the ball a little bit too long, not stepping up in the pocket, not using the space that the offensive line allowed him to use, I'm not saying that we're in trouble. It's just that it's going to take a bit longer for him to learn. We got to be patient with Howell. He's not going to come out looking like a Mahomes or a Rodgers or a Burrow or even a Kirk Cousins. This is only his third start. So we kind of got to chill on Howell for a second. And that's why I'm just saying I just don't think the receivers are going to do much today.
You saw the narrative switch this week. I was like, after that Cardinals game, everybody was like, Howell played well, but the offensive line sucks. And then you listen to a lot of the local media podcasts, Ben Standing, I think, the Beltway boys or whatever. And that narrative was starting to shift to, well, Howell held on to the ball too long. The offensive line actually did a pretty good job. It sounds like you now agree with that narrative, right?
No, I think they could have done better too. There was a lot of things that they messed up on. Like believe me, I'm not absolving the offensive line from anything. There was a couple of times last week where they failed on the double team. Like matter of fact, I think it was on one of the crucial sacks where Charles just let a Cardinal go too early on the double team. Like those mental mistakes have happened on the offensive line. I'm just saying they both have to be better.
Yeah.
It's not like Howell was, like I said, it's not like Howell was that awful where all the sacks were his fault. Matter of fact, on the fumble 6 that we gave up, that was a perfect example of what I'm saying. The offensive line messed up and Howell messed up.
Right.
And when you usually have those two happening on the same play, it's a disaster. And it almost cost the team the game.
Yeah. If you're Bieniemy today, how do you help Howell out against the Broncos?
Run it. You're going to have to run it. And I know Jacobs didn't get off versus the Broncos last week, but I mean, strategically speaking, that's the way to slow down that pressure. You're going to have to run, and the running backs are going to have to find those creases that they aren't finding or aren't known for finding. And hopefully, like you said, hopefully some fresh blood in there with Rodriguez. Hopefully he does kind of separate himself from the pack. Maybe that can happen. Maybe on those, I forgot what percentage you said. I think it was 40% for Rodriguez. Maybe on those 40% of the carries, he produces 80% of the offense or the rushing offense.
Yeah.
So maybe we can have a diamond in the rough. I'm not giving up on Robinson. I'm just saying, if we want to win today, running is important, and also moving the pocket. I know Bieniemy likes to do a lot of play action, but I would like to see a little bit more boot, like on Sam Howell's touchdown. Matter of fact, that sprint option to the side, like I like the play design, And as you can see, when things aren't open initially, you can still let the play develop some more. And all of a sudden, there's a few running lanes, there's a few passing lanes. And yeah, I'm excited to see how he attacks it, especially knowing that he has played the Broncos for like the last, 8 years?
Yeah.
Like he had 16 games on this franchise and this memory bank. And I heard that he's real cool with Vance Joseph. So I'm expecting him to have another good game. Like I know y'all didn't like the way he called the game last week, and I get it. But personally speaking, the game plan made sense. Like there were no what the heck? What is like there were if there were, it was very few. So I'm expecting the enemy to call a good game. But just like last week, it's up to the players to execute that game plan.
Yeah, man. Do you feel like this is a must-win game, considering our schedule in the next 2 weeks includes Buffalo and Philly, and then after that you got Chicago in prime time? I know a lot of folks aren't worried about Chicago. I'm going to put a yet on that one. I think they get going a little bit. Do you feel like this is a game we should and must get today?
It's a tricky game, Ellie. It's a real tricky game. I believe Vegas still has us favorite 3.5. I mean, I'm
Without,
sorry.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Broncos favorite 3.5. My apologies, y'all. It's still kind of early. Give me a break. They are the Broncos favorite 3.5. I don't like that number for Denver. I do feel like Washington is the better team. They're the more cohesive team. They've been together for the last 4 years as a unit. I'm talking about Rivera and the roster for the most part. The Broncos, the roster has been together, but this is only Sean Payton's second game with them. And I don't know. Like I feel like it's a must win only because of what you said. The schedule. Got the Buffalo and Philly back to back. Those are probably 2 L's. I'm just being real with y'all. Like y'all, if y'all think they'll beat them, good for you. But I live in reality. I'm sorry. And I don't see us winning either of those games. But you can cushion that with a win today against Denver, and you're 4-4 heading into primetime versus Chicago, hoping to get 3-2. And then you head into the A. I'll be there with y'all to watch the Dirty Birds take on the Commanders, and hopefully we can end up 4-2 after all is said and done. But none of that really matters if they don't win today.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have said, "Hey, you're going to be 2-2 out of the first 4 games," when the schedule dropped, everybody would have taken that, right? And
Everybody.
that's why this week is so important. Plus, it's a lot of people that don't believe after that Cardinals win, right? You're supposed to run them out of the building. They're the worst team in the league. Blah 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 blah. Right? Here is your
Told
chance
y'all.
to show something. Here's your chance to show something against Denver. They're not an explosive offense. Put it on film, man. Let's do something today. You know.
But I told y'all last week that game wasn't going to go how y'all thought it would. Everybody was picking it in like a 10-point win. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And this game feels just like last week's game. And it's probably going to play exactly like last week's game. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. Well, I'm going to just call you Meekins. Shout out to my man Meekins. He got us edging us. He got us edging Denver 16-10.
No, he's got it the other way. Mika's got it the other way. Read it
What?
again. He's
dang, it do say,
yeah.
But listen though, that's how I understand. That's how close the game is though. Like it could go either way.
Yeah.
But I still feel like with Washington being the better together team, they're used to playing games where they're, kind of in a dogfight, so to speak. Like the uglier the game, the more it favors Washington. I feel like they're a gritty team that just, seems to pull it out at the end, especially under Rivera. Now he hasn't done it as well as he probably should have. But you got to think about it. In 2020, that Steelers game, how was that game? Gritty, grimy, got to grind it out. 2021, when they beat the Bucks, how was that game? Gritty, grind it out. I think they had a 12-minute drive to end the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like those games favors Washington, so that's why I'm optimistic about today's game. And Meekins, you let me down, bro. I thought you picked that 16-10. You let me down.
We brought Bieniemy here to take us from gritty to pretty offensively, and
It's going to take time.
We got to see those points, man. We got to see points.
If
you're Sean Payton and that Denver offensive staff, how are you attacking our defense today?
Running the ball. Like, this is, if you're expecting this 35-25 shootout, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, I looked at the over-under. I think our game was the lowest point total at like 36 points. So even Vegas expecting it to be like 16, 18 or something like that.
Yeah, that's low.
Like, take the under. Go to DraftKings, use our code, and take the under, bro, because it's going to get ugly. But it's back as far as your question goes. Denver's going to have to run the ball just as much as we do. Javonte Williams, our old friend Samaje Perine, I think they're not only going to run the ball, but have a little success, just like Connor had last week. Like, that's what I'm saying. This game really, really looks like how it's going to look. It looks like last week, or it feels like it's going to look like last week, even down to the quarterback. If you could contain Wilson, I can't believe this is the first time we even mentioned his name. We've been talking for 20 minutes. Right? First time we brought up Russell Wilson. But if you could contain the Bama and, don't let him outside the pocket, that's pretty much been the scouting report for him since 2012, his rookie season. If you contain him, don't let him out the pocket too much. He literally can't see the passing lanes. Like, it's not a joke. He literally cannot see them. So he has to kind of move the get space for a passing lane. I do expect when Denver drops back for our defensive line to go hunting. At least 4 sacks from the defense today. Ooh. At least 4. I'm calling that.
So look, man, this is the best wide receiver duo. If Judy does in fact play, I think our team has faced since the Eagles games last year. I can't, the Cowboys at the end of the year. I think that's one thing. Again, we can talk about it, but they weren't on their game that game. If Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are both healthy and on their game, it presents problems. Not unsolvable problems, but it does present problems. We know Forbes in college was susceptible to double moves. What does Jerry Jeudy do really well, right? He's a route technician, right? So he's got all those moves you see on YouTube plus fundamentals. And so he could get himself open against Forbes. Now, Forbes is a really good corner. I have faith in Forbes. I do. But I think if Russell Wilson is given time, it could be problematic. So I think we need those 4 sacks because you don't want those receivers running free in our secondary. You just don't, because I think those guys are really good. I have a high level of respect for Cortland Sutton as an NFL receiver. He has been good. I think Jeudy can be extremely good when he's healthy. The problem is he just has so many injuries, but I think he's one of the best route runners in the NFL. Their main tight end, I think, is not going to play, so that doesn't concern me a lot. The backs, it's going to come down to the backs, Mike. And I think on both sides of the ball, it's a battle of whose running backs are better is what this is ultimately going to come down to. Javonte Williams, the North Carolina former Tar Heel who plays for the Broncos, is really good, but is coming off a major injury. But if you get him matched up with our linebackers consistently, that's not a good thing for us, right? So if Denver can scheme it up and Sean Payton has the capability to do so, it could be a long day for us, right? I think who's your other back? Samaje Perine, right? You mentioned it earlier, the former commander. He was our leading receiver last week. I'm not saying that's a great thing, but he has shown an aptitude to catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit. What are they going to do running the football, though, on the ground? Because if they control the trenches with the run and they stop our pass rush because we have to stop and play run defense a ton, I think that's going to make it, less than ideal for our defense. But ultimately, I think our defensive line is better than the offensive line of the Denver Broncos by a wide margin. It's just about how the scheming and game planning comes into play. Denver and Sean Payton have historically been really good at watching film and coming up with solutions, right? Like to what the defense is trying to do. Sean Payton in New Orleans did it for years. He had Drew Brees. But Sean Payton was an offensive mastermind. Did that year away from the game change anything for him? I don't know. The other thing is, Mike, they're knocking off rust, right? Sean Payton is knocking off rust coming back this year, just like Deshaun Watson in Cleveland is still knocking off rust. How much of that rust? Javonte Williams is knocking off rust from being out last year. Are they going to get to the point where they are finally clicking today? I don't know. But we will see. And if they do, like I said, it might be a long day. Kevin, the PRF, what do you got to say, man? He says, just Wiley sucks. The rest are mid, especially in the run game. Well, you got a point, but we'll see. We'll see today. All right, Mike, we're going to get out of here with this. Give me your score prediction and give me your offensive and defensive MVP coming out of this game.
Still going to go with 2023 Washington, like I said earlier on the week. MVP on offense, Logan Thomas. Ooh. MVP on defense, Montez Sweat. I think he goes back to back.
Doubling it up, huh? Okay. You know what? I feel good about this. You know, earlier on our Tuesday pod, I said, I think I took Denver, right? By like 3 or so points. I woke up this morning feeling good about this game. I'm going to say it's going to be 17-15 Commanders. It's hard to have an offensive MVP when you score 17 points, right? But I'm going to go, I'm going to just take the wild card. I think Chris Rodriguez Jr. shows something today. You guys, if you're joining late, I think he's going to get more carries than he did last week. I think maybe he shows us a little something. And then I think defensively, man, that's tough. I think it's going to be Fuller. Fuller's just playing so well, man. And I'm just so happy for that guy because like I said, we always just want to count him out, you know? And we're like, hey, ship him out of here. We got to replace him, but he just keeps finding a way. So Fuller today is going to shut down Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and whoever lines up on his side, and he's gonna have an interception today too. How about that? So that's what it is. Commanders fans, this is your early pregame show. Make sure you get some rest, get your food going, light the grill. You got time to tailgate, whatever you need to do to have a good time watching this game. Make sure you get started doing it. Be responsible and safe, though, right? It's gonna be a hot one in Denver in the altitude, fellas. On the Commanders, drink your water, your Gatorade, whatever you need to do to stay ready. Commanders Declassified Podcast. We are out of here. Shout out to Eric and Brian, who will be bringing you the post-game show. Everybody have a tremendous Sunday, and I hope you have a great time watching the game. Mike, it's fun, my guy. We'll catch you next time.
Holla at y'all.